Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to be here in a very challenging moment because I have to maintain the good level of the conversations that we had throughout this morning, and I also in the between the lunch that we have. But there are also other ways to see how or what I'm going to present to you today, because we start with the first session talking about networks very broadly. And then we went to something very specifically, which are the incubators, a very good example from Copenhagen. And now I'm going to present you another alternative to collaborate in and intermediated in a network environment. So I've been here for a week already, and I've been talking with some Brazilian companies and some Swedish companies that are trying to do open innovation. What are the major challenges that they have? That is something that I've been asking them. And some of the problems that they had basically were, how could we move now and start collaborating with universities? That's something not established. Some of the things that I've been hearing is like, universities work in a different environment. They work at a different speed. Let me tell you that that's not new. The same thing happens in Europe. Also, I've been observing that some of the companies have difficulties in collaborating with suppliers. And we observe the same things in Europe. So it's not a big issue for Brazil to be behind this. And open innovation is an activity that takes time, that you need to learn how to develop with the time. And as I said before, I'm going to show you a way to do it with an innovation intermediary, hopefully to embed and try to understand and collaborate and have all these open innovation activities in a network. When we were interviewing some companies in Europe about their open innovation activities, one of the major challenges that they told us were we don't know how to connect. We have difficulties on collaborating and establishing partnerships and agreements that lead us to success. Because if we could see now, Brazil has a very big opportunity to be one of the most innovating countries in the world. A lot of companies are coming here, international companies. They already know, they already been in Asia, but now they are coming to Latin America. And Brazil is the door for Latin America. Myself, I am from Bolivia, the country that's next to this one. And I see, as a person that is in the middle of this side of the continent, that Brazil is the entrance for Europe. And also Brazil is becoming the entrance for the United States. Now the challenge for you is trying to address the problems that the European countries are having right now. How can you do this? You have to understand something. As a firm, and something that I observed that Brazilian firms are not doing, as a firm, you are within a network. And we've been discussing a lot today about networks. You're in the, I'm sorry for the graphic, doesn't look so good, but you're here in the middle. And you have already established partnerships. Sometimes within your network, with your suppliers. But the relationships that you establish there are not for innovation, are just for buying and selling products. But you should take this opportunity to start exploring some opportunities to collaborate with them. Once you know what is within your network, which is the closest area, once you manage that part of your network, you need to go up beyond that. Why do you need to go beyond that? Because you need to explore for new opportunities, for new challenges, for new opportunities to develop new products, for doing it faster, for doing it cheaper. Brazil is a big country, and we can say that it's as big as Europe. But Brazil needs to still understand that there are enormous opportunities in other parts of South America. We know that Chile is a good economy. We know that Argentina has a good economy. And Brazil also needs to understand that there are other universities abroad, the United States, and Europe that are willing to collaborate with Europe. I spent like the last 10 years of my life living in Germany, in Spain, in Belgium, and now I live in Sweden. And I see that there are numerous of companies and numerous of opportunities for universities here and for companies here to collaborate with companies in Europe. How do you do that? You can collaborate with companies in other industries. You can start doing also some activities of crowdsourcing. You can start looking for some incubators. I visited myself one of these incubators in Silicon Valley, and there are companies not only from the States, but also from Europe visiting there. So you need to start exploring these opportunities. And one specific thing that I want to talk is about these innovation intermediaries. Henry talked about them already in 2006, and a lot has changed, and the number has increased. And I'm aware that there are some innovation intermediaries, also local here. Some of them visit us not too long ago, 2 months ago, in Sweden, because they want to understand how they can offer you those services here in Brazil. But once you start collaborating, once you start to move from one level, from the network that you have, to a newer level of analysis, problems, barriers arise. Not outside, but inside your organization. Inside of your organization, so problems of not having enough resources. I don't know how many project managers have been confronted with the idea or with the request, we have to innovate, but you don't receive any money from corporate level, C-level, or you have the challenge of not being able to collaborate quickly enough with universities to bring new products to the market. So there are numerous of barriers that emerge. How could you address this? So I propose that this is a framework that I'm proposing. Today we hear another framework from BIM. And in this framework, I propose that innovation intermediaries, these are one type of partners. So the external partners that you firms need to approach. But you also need to have internal processes. The internal processes are here, and you also need to have some internal training, like the one you're having here right now. Why do you need to do this? Need to do this to enable more open innovation activities, to enact and enable open innovation activities. What is the effect of that? If you do these activities of engaging with external partners, training inside your company, then you will be able to increase the open innovation capacity that you have. Why is this important that you increase the open innovation capacity? And why I'm trying to just offer you an alternative to increase your open innovation capacity? It is because if you have a high open innovation capacity, you will be able to speed up the process, minimize the resources, create new type of collaborations, learn quicker, fail quicker, and so on. Hopefully, what you need to do by increasing the number of external partners is increase your open innovation capacity. The way that I'm telling you how to do this today is with the use of the innovation intermediaries. So what is the open innovation intermediaries' contribution in all of this? What do you use an innovation intermediary here? If companies have some problems of the idea of sharing your patents, sharing your insights of licenses, an innovation intermediary can help you with that, and I will tell you in a minute how. The fear of public disclosure. You know, if you haven't, not only in Brazil, but also in Europe, if you have a problem internally, if you have a problem with your product, if you identify an opportunity, you don't want to share it. It's yours. It's yours, and if you do it well, you go to the market and you sell it. But what happens if you don't have the technology or the knowledge internally to spot that opportunity? How can you go for that? That is one of the opportunities that you can use with an innovation intermediary. What about the lack of experienced personnel? All of us, and also large multinational firms, are building new knowledge on how to do open innovation. The question right now is not whether open innovation is useful for companies. We know that already, and we can say that it's valid and help companies. But the question that most managers have right now is how to do it. How do you build that internal capacity? An intermediary is a mechanism. It's not expensive for large firms to start doing some activities on open innovation. How can you align your open innovation needs with your business objectives? So they could act as mentors, external mentors that can help you with those activities. Let me tell you just very briefly about some of the intermediaries that we can see. We talked before about the incubators, and that was a nice presentation about the incubators in Denmark. But there are also others that are now growing in Brazil, and that you should really take the opportunity to visit them and establish some forms of collaboration. There are technology transfer offices, there are new innovation agencies, there are new technology science and innovation parks. And obviously, in a minute, I will talk about innovation intermediaries. One particular type of intermediary that I want to discuss is one that is close to my previous business school, which is ESADE. So not too long ago, approximately 6 years ago, they decided to establish an innovation park. You know, business schools don't do technologies. Business schools don't develop new science. Business schools develop new models, new frameworks. So they decided to have this nice building here to enable cross and open innovation, because they believe that companies from different industries can collaborate and can learn and spot new opportunities that companies from the same sector will not be able to spot. So what is the model that they have? The model basically that they have is they start meeting, they start to have corporate boards, company meetings to identify possible trends. So what is important in the Brazilian context, for example, for Petrobras? What is important for companies from other countries like Electrolux and Ericsson and universities? What are those ideas that could emerge that are applicable for different fields? Then they invite different coaches and mentors internationally and locally to evaluate those opportunities. And then some of the companies might take on some of these opportunities, and that's the filtering process. Some of them, they will say, yeah, we want to adopt them, we want to continue, we want to put some money on this. And then the open innovation funnel begins. So start doing the opportunity validation, creating a startup project, and hopefully launching the product to the market. This is basically an alternative to the open innovation funnel. But in this incubator, although they use this type of funnel, they also talk about the support that they can give you to the idea. So external innovation support and tools that they can offer. Internal innovation community that is inside the incubator. To do what? To spot new opportunities for the companies that are inside the incubator, for the residents, new market opportunities. And also, there are since a lot of ideas were generated, those ideas could be launched to the market by other firms, by other residents that were not part of the initial phase of identifying the trends. This is just one way of doing open innovation from a management perspective and start collaborating with different companies in different fields. But what is more important, and that is what Henry has talked about in 2006, which is about these open innovation intermediaries. And there are numerous of successful examples about that. And he starts the talk suggesting that firms have the major difficulty on identifying partners. Identifying partners locally, at the city level, nationally, and globally. How do you select the ideal university? In Sao Paulo, there are very limited number of universities for such a big city. But if you only collaborate with the University of Sao Paulo, for example, in Brazil, you might be missing out other opportunities in other regions in Brazil or other possible partners. How could you overcome this problem of narrow collaborations, only the collaborations that you have within your region? How could you, for example, identify these solutions? One of the intermediaries that I work with continuously for some years, the name is Nine Sigma. This company, has established process to connect problems, scientific problems, with solutions from other sectors. For example, if you do some crash test in the automobile industry, you need to use this type of things to measure how much blood occurs, or what is the accident effect when an accident occurs. But there was a firm in that case that was looking for package leak detection, and that's the name. So they want to look for opportunities and solutions. They couldn't find the solution internally. They were looking and developing new solutions and trying to identify how could they do it faster, and how could they identify this spot. And they identify solutions in a completely different sector. And here we have some examples, like coming from sensors. Cars have sensors, and those type of sensors that are sophisticated and cheaper could be also used in cars. So what about thermoformable films that are used in bills could be used in other type of different technologies. And that is the objective, connecting a solution from a field that is not familiar to you, something that you cannot understand. And basically what they are trying to go is trying to go to the basic of the science, to the basic of the technology. We're not talking anymore the company language. And that is what these firms are trying to do. Let me go how they do this. And how can you start collaborating with an intermediary or adopting this process within your company? First, you need the support from the corporate board. The corporate strategy. Don't forget what we hear at the beginning. Open innovation is about the strategy. Once you have the support, once you have the money as a project manager from the corporate level, you can start identifying those knowledge areas that are important for you. Those solutions that are not the problems for the scientist or the researcher, but that are important for you as a firm to speed up the process, to minimize the expenses that you have on research and development. Once you know that very broad problems, technical problems, what the intermediary offers you, in this case Nine Sigma, is they simplify the problem for you, and with you many times, in 2 pages. And these are not people like me that only know something about business. These are highly educated project managers with a scientific background, more or less the people that you might have in your companies. And what they do is they try to translate a problem, broadly, into a scientific challenge that could be addressed in different countries. So if you have a company here in Brazil, a problem in Brazil at the company Petrobras, for example, they try to address that challenge and spread it worldwide. And that is what I mean here. I'm sorry. And that is what I mean here. They send the solution to approximately, from what I observed, 45,000 people. So one of your challenges is disseminated to 45,000 people. And they expect to find a solution. And what happens if they don't find a solution? And what happens if they find a solution? If they don't find a solution, it means one good thing, that you are doing really radical research and no one in the world is doing that. If they find a solution for you, you simplify the time, you simplify the cost. Because imagine how much money does it cost you to have a researcher in your lab. I will go back to that in a second. Who is using these innovation intermediaries? It's something like a couple of companies. Most European companies are doing that. We have here some examples of some companies that are collaborating with this type of intermediary, Nine Sigma. I assume that the number of companies has increased throughout the last years. But what are the benefits? From one example, one of the large companies that I observed, General Electric and General Motors, have already run 100 projects of this. Did they find a solution? Yes, they found some solutions. They speed up the process, and I had the pleasure to talk with them about their experiences and the benefits that I will go in a second. So there are different types of intermediaries, and that's one of the challenges. When I was talking in Europe, is which one should I pick? It depends on your strategy. Are you trying to get external technologies from the outside to your firm for your problem, or are you trying to sell something? Because don't forget that open innovation is about inbound and outbound of knowledge. So you can also use one of these intermediaries to sell your technologies outside. I will very quickly go through the process, so you can get a little bit of the idea of what is that innovation intermediary process is. So first, as a firm, you have a group of people that identify and spot a problem. And then you need to have people from law, from the operations, from human resources, to try to identify what is the problem. They start meeting and identifying the opportunity. And then they collaborate with the intermediary to disentangle the challenge, to disentangle that challenge that is scientific into something that is understandable for different fields. Once they move to that, they send this request for proposal, 2 pages, anonymous and confidential information. And that's something important that you need to know. If you are a big company that is having a technical problem, you don't want to reveal your identity. And you can do that through the intermediary. They find a way of revealing your challenge in an anonymous form. The request is sent, as I said, to around 50,000 people. And then the solutions come after 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, you have at least 50 responses that are addressing your challenge. You evaluate these responses internally, and then you decide to acquire the technology. If you're satisfied with that solution, you buy it. You buy it for a much cheaper price, or you establish a new relationship. Perhaps they come with a solution that is not ready yet to be implemented, which is good and not good, but if it's not ready to be implemented, you can give some money to do the development and also have some part of the license that will be generated. So very briefly, this is the process, how it goes. Just I want to give you a little bit of the feeling of what is the process that I go. And also something that you need to know if you start thinking about collaborating with an innovation intermediary is that there are different stages. Because start collaborating with that intermediary, for the first time, won't give you success. You need to learn how to do it. You need to learn what type of projects to select. And that's why we say we have the 3 different phases: the launch, the consolidate, and embed phase. Launching is just using some money to see if you find something. But once you learn, after approximately, from what we saw, 5 to 6 projects, you start really getting the insights and adopting those solutions. And most companies, large ones in Europe, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, General Motors, Kraft, AkzoNobel, Ferrero Gel, the ones that I've been talking, they told me approximately after 8 projects, they start getting the insights and solutions. And what is finally at the end, the embed process, after some time, once you know how to use this project, you will use the intermediary as a mechanism to speed up your process. So if you have a specific challenge that you don't know how to solve it very early on, you go straight forward with them. You know what you want. You know what service can they offer you to address your challenge and your innovation problem. So how to measure the success of an innovation intermediaries process? And that's something for the managers that are also trying to adopt this. Don't think that, that having solutions is the only success measure that you should use. One of the things is obviously obtaining an external technological solution. So you want something and you got it. In most of the cases, that won't happen. Again, General Motors got it, out of 100 projects, they got 10 successes. But they were very happy with that because they as every type of innovation, if you get 10 successes, you should be happy because these are positive results. Innovation is many times failing. So this is one of the tangible results. Also time and cost reduction. In 4 weeks, you know, if any possible solution is available in the market, in the world, very fast and very cheap. You only pay if you get a solution. But what are the other benefits that are not tangible? Evaluation of a potential opportunity. Perhaps you receive a solution that is not solving your problem, but that might guide you where the solution might be, so you can do that on your own. New contacts and information. You can identify new partners. So if you're in Brazil, only collaborating here with your universities and suppliers locally, and if a solution comes from China, from Europe, from the United States, you can adopt that solution and start establishing a relationship with that company for future initiatives. Collaboration, insights, and new ideas. Help to reconsider the real problem and shape it to increase its impact. It was very interesting when I talked with one of the companies that the general managers say, I have a project that I don't like and I want to kill it. I don't believe we don't have the market doesn't have any potential solution for this. And she was right. She was right in meaning that the scientists and the researchers were just looking into the field of science, into the field of physics without finding anything. And they could invest in money and time on that. The managers say, I'm going to use an intermediary to prove to you that you will not find a solution. No one is working on this idea in the market. So they can move to something else. That's another possible benefit that how you can use an innovation intermediary. So I want to conclude with some recommendations that I have for you today. So develop new metrics to measure collaboration with innovation intermediaries, like new strategic alliances, new ideas. How many ideas did you get out of this intermediary process versus how many ideas could be generated internally? Exposure to new production metric. What type of metrics in terms of time to market, if you use an intermediary, time to number of responses that you receive, the echo effect of knowing new customers. If you collaborate with an intermediary, then you might know new possible alternatives of knowledge. think about in Europe, there are numbers of universities that are working with intermediaries. And sometimes you address one of the universities, one of the scientists that is working for that university, and that person might connect you with another one. Scientists know everything about their network. And when you receive a response and you believe that your friend has a solution, that is an indirect network, something that we've been discussing before. It's not only about the people that you know, but 3 degrees of freedom, 4 degrees of freedom. How do you go behind that, beyond that? And a suggestion is also, do not finance that internally. Do not finance everything internally. Invest only on the projects that have a strategic relevance and have the ultimate goal to find an external partner. That is very important. It's not throwing out money to these projects. Even though I gave you the example of General Motors, where they had 100 projects and they invest approximately 5 million euros on dollars on using an innovation intermediary, you don't want to do that. You don't want to fail. You just want to try to speed up the process. You want to reduce the cost. Recognize the role of new partners in the open innovation paradigm. Recognize that not all the knowledge is available in Brazil. And recognize that there is a lot of people in Europe that is willing to collaborate with Brazil, that they believe that there are opportunities here to collaborate. So start thinking not locally, but globally. And finally, do not overuse external sources of knowledge. Sometimes, especially large firms, think that all the knowledge, or they adopted too much the open innovation paradigm, and they believe that all the knowledge is available outside. And that's not the case. First, you have to look at internally. Do your homework. Look internally what you have. Ask internally, and then go beyond that. And that's the next step. Tomorrow I'm having Wednesday I'm having a class on this, where I will address more of the challenges on how to write down the proposal, what type of projects can be used or can be selected to use with innovation intermediaries. I will give you more insights about the recommendations, the strategies, the steps that you should follow. I didn't want to take too much time today since we have the lunch, and I really appreciate your time, and well, I hope you enjoyed the lunch. Thank you very much.